Welcome back. So today the US market is closed. We are taking a breather. But when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto, it's 24/7. So right now, Bitcoin is starting out the day around 104.5, around the same place as yesterday. Yesterday overall, Bitcoin and crypto didn't really move, but companies that related to stable coins certainly did, right? And I talked about how Circle and Coinbase, their stock shot up. Are we going to see that continue tomorrow? Quite possibly. But what about everything else, right? Outside of the Genius bill, outside of stables, what about Bitcoin? Well, right now, the US market and Bitcoin itself seems like they're both being held back a little bit because people are antsy about the war, right? That is going to be an ongoing thing. It is day 7 now, and both sides are still at it. And the US is deciding whether or not they're going to jump in. I think that's going to be a big catalyst either for markets to go up or down, right? No one really wants the US to get involved, but the US may. So that's the thing. That's why yesterday we were kind of held back. And it could be a continuous theme going forward. Yesterday also, we did have the big FOMC meeting, right? And I talked about that in my video yesterday. And, you know, people are worried about stagflation too. If there's no rate cut until September, what's going to happen between now and then? And what about the remaining months of the year if the war is ongoing and prices are high and so forth, right? The good thing is yesterday we did get clarification from Powell that we will still have 2 cuts. So that's good. He didn't say, well, maybe it's not 2 or, oh, we're only going to have 1. No, he's staying with that 2 cuts, which is good. And that's, you know, overall, that's going to drive up or spur up economic activity in the US, right? So right now we're still, you know, investors are still held back by a couple things, okay? But hey, Bitcoin, whenever it gets held back, it's just temporary, okay? It's going to keep on getting bigger and stronger. ChatGPT predicts that by the end of the first half of this year, which is actually coming up in like 2 weeks, okay, it thinks there's a 40% chance that Bitcoin's going to be between 107 and 113. That's not, that's very reasonable. Just a few days ago, we were at 108, 109. We touched upon 110, you know, earlier this month. So yeah, it also does think that there's a 30% chance we may have some choppiness going back to 100, division 107. The ranges for this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. When I asked ChatGPT, it was more precise and it would look at like moving averages and support levels and so forth. So it's more like 102 to 107 or 103 to 107 would be a range, and anything below 103, like, you know, there will be another. So bottom line is, looking at this, the greatest probability is basically staying where we are to the top, which is 112, right? And that's not a bad thing. However, there are a lot of signals that show we are right at the cusp of a big move. Like, all these things are showing that, and I'm going to get to it in a little bit. But I do agree with Robert Kiyosaki with this. And this may sound bashful, but this is the honest truth. Poor people focus on price, rich people focus on quantity. And what is the difference, right? Poor people, in this case, he's referring to a lot of retail investors that come in and they want to, you know, become rich right away. They want to FOMO in and they want to make quick money. They don't understand the reasons why something is going up. They don't understand investing. They're basically coming in and gambling, like going to a casino, trying to make quick buck and leave. Rich people in this case focus on quantity. This refers to people, it could be retail, but these type of people are the ones that understand what they're investing in, like Bitcoin. If you truly understand what Bitcoin is and what it's about and why it's going to keep going up, then you don't focus on the daily price, you focus on quantity. How many can you acquire within the next 10 years or within your lifetime? Right? And he's talking about that. He has been a lifelong gold and silver guy. He's been accumulating as much as he can. And now it's the same with Bitcoin. It's really that simple. Right? Because we all know, at least those of us in the know that Bitcoin is scarce and adoption is growing. Maturity is growing. And because of the scarcity factor, it's going to go up. It's going to keep on going up. You just have to be patient, ignore the day-to-day price, and focus on accumulation. Ricardo Solanas, I'm horrible with names, but one of the richest men on the planet, one of the richest men in Mexico, he said he just put hundreds of millions more into Bitcoin and says that without a doubt, Bitcoin is on track to surpass gold's market cap. That would be 8x from today's level. And it doesn't mean that it's just going to stop there. It's going to keep on going. And it's the same thing. If you watch the full interview, he says the same thing. I don't care about day-to-day price. I just care about accumulating as many Bitcoin as I can. So if you understand, you understand. Saylor understands this. You may argue that he may be risking a little bit too much. He's creating new stocks, new preferred stock options, just to acquire more Bitcoin. He's going all out. And he believes that as a country in the US, we should control a lot more of it. We have a Bitcoin reserve of 200,000, but we need to go up a lot higher, maybe up to 20% to make sure that we stay dominant as a country when it comes to Bitcoin, and we don't let China and Russia take advantage of that. I don't disagree. Now, if you're looking at some of these metrics I said that are very bullish, here's one, but this also shows how retail investors are with their lettuce hands. Right now, retail sentiment is at a bearish level, a very bearish level. Even though Bitcoin is at above 100,000, 104, 105, and we were just at 109 just like days ago, retail is negative. And the last time Bitcoin sentiment or retail sentiment was this low was a precursor to Bitcoin skyrocketing. That was all the way back when Bitcoin was in the 70s and 80s. We had that dip, right, in March and April. Somehow we're at that sentiment. And this also relates to the alts. I think a lot of this has to do with the alts being low. But this is because retail, like Robert Kiyosaki, most retail just focus on price, not on accumulating, because they don't understand. They think that the price of something is how fundamentally good it is. They don't care about what's going on. They don't understand what's going on. They're not investing. They're gambling. That's why right now we're going through this phase where Bitcoin is strong. People that understand Bitcoin, institutions that understand, continue to load up regardless if the price is high or low. But it's not the same with alts. People just keep selling off alts more and more and more and more, and they are getting weaker, and Bitcoin dominance is actually going up. So right now, it's a time to stay strong, understand what you're investing in. This is something very, very, very interesting. That the number of old, ancient supply of Bitcoin, ones that have been around for 10 plus years, is growing faster than the issuance of new Bitcoin. I don't understand that, but take a listen. Number of Bitcoin turning 10 years old every day, that number is around 550 Bitcoin. And right now, there's only 450 Bitcoin being minted per day or being created per day. So there's more Bitcoin that are turning ancient 10 plus years a day than new issuance. That goes to show you how little is being produced now. And everyone is fighting for what exists. And most Bitcoin that exists are now considered ancient Bitcoin for over 10 years. And where are they being held? By long-term holders, the ones that believe and now are possibly billionaires. So, last few things. We got this right now, the 50-day moving average. Okay, it has been a good support in many instances, and also been resistance also in many instances, especially during crypto winter. But right now, we are utilizing it as a support level, and generally speaking, that's a good thing. And then we continue forward, right? And we're still looking at this inverse head and shoulders. If we break out of this pattern, that means we're going to our next stop, right? So we got a lot of signals that show that this move is sooner than later, despite the fact that we have all these negative things out there, uncertain things like the war. But again, if you truly understand what you're holding, you truly understand what you're investing in, then you should not be worried about when this is going to happen. If this is going to happen next week or next month, you should worry about how much you could acquire before it happens. That's all, guys. I will keep it nice and short today. Like I said, the U.S. market is closed. So we're going to see a little bit of less volume today than normal because we're not getting those ETF inflows and anything like that. But tomorrow is Friday. We'll get another day. So we'll talk about it. I'll see you guys possibly tonight again with another video, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And make sure tomorrow to tune in at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right. Have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.